Welcome to Seymour from the Front Pew podcast, coming to you from the broadcast studio at Seymour First Baptist Church in Seymour, Tennessee, and featuring thoughts and discussions around loving God, loving others, making disciples, and living the life. I am your host, Tiger Brooks, and now, on to the podcast.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am not Tiger Brooks, not in the least. My name is Austin Clark, and I'll be your host for today. And this is what we're going to call the Beth episode, or the Beth-isode.
Working title.
Working title.
Hey, listen.
Good job.
I did it. Oh, I'm so proud of myself. This is so much pressure.
I was going to do.
I've never faced the camera. I've never sat. Tiger even has a bigger mic to get through the beard hair and whatnot. I'm so excited. So if you're listening and something screws up, it's Shelby's fault, not mine.
She trained you wrong.
Yes. So we have gathered today for the purpose of talking to Miss Bethany Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Bethany, I don't have a clap. I don't know how to do any of this.
Yeah, there's a cheer in there somewhere.
That's what I got. I don't know how to put.
They are.
There are no other.
It's all the
it's
top
only
level.
The top level.
Oh, you done messed it up now.
Oh no.
You lights went off.
Back it up, Terry. Put it in reverse. There we go. Oh. Got it.
There you go.
That only took 20 seconds. Okay. Anyway, all right, we're done with that. So, Beth, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Bethany has been with us here at Seymour First for 2 years now. You see her on stage. A part of why we wanted to have an opportunity to have you on a podcast is you are a public face of the church. Us being on stage and whatnot.
That makes it sound so
much pressure.
More important, yes.
So much more important. That's exactly right. But by nature of being on stage, us in worship ministry get seen a little bit more, I think. And so even though we probably shouldn't have as much responsibility in life, given the nature that we are musicians and there are oddities that come with that.
It's usually the musicians themselves.
Yeah, we are the problem. It's us. But we wanted to get to know you a little bit more and let you tell us a little bit about your story, about how you got here. The children you have, all the things. You just start from birth if you'd like, right. But we'll interject some stuff. But we'd love to get to know you a little bit more, Miss Beth, and let the podcast world know a little bit more about Beth. So take it away.
A little bit more about Beth. Yes, from birth. There's actually a picture of me that I had hanging in my studio at our old house in Knoxville of me as an infant. I mean, just diaper and a pencil, and I have one hand on the piano keys, and I have one hand writing music, and I think I'm probably a one or so. So I quite literally have had music in my blood since infancy. So my mother is a church musician. She has been an organist or pianist or performing or leading worship or leading ministry my entire life. So when I was about 4 or 5 is when her church music career really took off. So I spent a lot of time in road tripping on the weekends to go to different churches and watch her play. And so as a very, very young child, I wanted to play piano just like my mom. My brother and I are both church musicians. He is a worship pastor in Jonesboro, Tennessee. So church ministry has been a huge part of our lives, and I always wanted it to be until I didn't. So I walked through, I came into the contemporary worship era. That's what we call it. Yes.
With all 4 of its chords.
Maybe even 6 on a good day. I grew up at Central Baptist Church of Fountain City. It was a big, big, big part of my life, big part of growing up, as well as music. So when I was in college, went to Carson Newman, now a university at the time, Carson Newman College. And I started out as a music education major because it made sense to be a school music teacher. And I got about 2 years into that and looked at the education classes and had a change of heart from the Lord, saying, "Well, I don't want to do that. I wanted to run my own business. I wanted to not teach in school." And my advisor said, "You absolutely should be teaching in school and you should not change your major." But I didn't listen. I ended up teaching in school.
That's the way it worked.
Yes. But in my time in college, I had a lot of growth, not just musically, but really trying to figure out what is my place in the world? What do I want to really do and hone in my skill set on my life? I wasn't...
During that time, did you listen to Michael W. Smith? My place in this world, my place. Anyway,
Yes.
sorry.
Yes,
It was out there in the background
That was
somewhere.
the theme.
Yeah, right.
That was the theme song of 1996.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Mhm.
I spent some time in college and I ended up back at Central Baptist Fountain City doing an internship. And that was when we wanted to start a contemporary worship service there. And I began leading that with a mentor of mine who's actually played here a couple of times, Carla Johnson, who's wonderful. And we did the contemporary worship service. It's still going on today. But I really found in those early years, especially during college and a couple of years right after, I really found that I really loved having everything at the same time. I loved having the choir and the drums and the electric guitar and the violins. I wanted everything all at once. And that has been a theme all the way through my ministry career. Are you supposed to call it a ministry career?
Sure.
Sure.
I don't know if that's a term. But I always felt that was... yes.
Whichever.
But I always loved that. So I feel like I've always been seeking that and praying for that throughout my journey. I always ended up being I think it was because I was young that I was always slated as a contemporary worship person.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been slated that. But I think now that I'm 40, I'm ready. I graduated from a keyboard to a real piano, but
You just told your age on
I know.
podcast.
It wasn't even correct. I'm 41.
Yeah, I didn't have that problem because I was bald by 23. So even though I was 23 in age, I looked like I was 40 already. So people were like, "You probably should do the traditional
You should probably be
service.
conducting.
You should probably just conduct. You don't need to do that contemporary stuff."
Let's see. Oh, there's a very important piece of college. I had no intention of staying in Knoxville. I grew up in Knoxville, and I was like, I'm going to go see the world. Which I did. I studied abroad for a semester, but that doesn't really count. I feel like everybody does that. So, but I met a boy when I came back home at Central Baptist Church, Fountain City. And he was very cute, and I'd never seen him before. And that very, very much changed the course of my life. In that spring, I decided to not go back to do anything else overseas. I ended up staying. And we had I was going on a mission trip to Mexico. Loved doing mission trips. Austin and I have talked about this a couple of times about how I really love doing mission trips. But now, being 41 and having bad knees, I feel very differently about it than I did back then. We were heading on one to Mexico. We wanted to have an auction to raise money for the trip. This story is told very differently by my husband, so you're going to get the exact answer.
But he's not here, so you can do it however you want.
But we will ask him.
Of course, this is a very short answer. And so we were raising money. Chris's friends at the time, who were also people that I had known and grown up with, and they decided they were going to auction him off like a date with Mr. Firefighter, and he drove this really cool old Porsche, and Richard Coleman, who is now a member here, came up to me before the auction started, and he said he gave me $500. And of course, being misadventurous, I was like, "Oh yeah, that'll be hilarious." I was always up for a good joke, a good prank, but they didn't tell him that it was a prank, so he just thought I was some weird girl that gave $500. And my parents were going, "Beth, what are you doing?"
Did you start
they
at
knew.
500 or did you start at like
No,
No, they were like,
I'm going to bank
up for-
400 on this?
Up is Chris, and she's 500. Just immediately.
No, I strategically placed my friends around the room, to bump it up, and we let it go because he had, some friends that were. And there was this elderly lady in our church who got it up on her own to about $200 something, and you could see him sweating up there. Anyway, so that wasn't our first meeting. I had met him a couple of weeks before because I was coming back to sing on Palm Sunday. And he was in charge of taking the welcome pads. We always had those on every pew. You had to sign your name. And he was in charge of those. But I needed it to write my words down. So I was doing Nicole Nordman's Why. And that has so many lyrics on it. So I was using it to drop. He said, hey, you're messing up my pads. That's my first meeting with my husband. So anyway, we got it up to $500 and we met. He didn't know it was a joke. I told him, I said, you don't really have to call me. And he said, no, I'm going to follow through. And so 2 days later, he called me and we have been together ever since.
Oh,
I know. It's very sweet. His story is she bought me.
But he's not lying.
No, he's not.
I'd be interested to know how that would go off at one of our events now.
Yeah.
Auctioning off dates.
Yeah. Was it meant to be a date?
I don't really know.
How did they auction
That's a really
it off?
good question.
Because
Well, they said it was a date that you got to ride on the fire truck and you got to ride in the Porsche.
Technically they did auction a date off.
So yes,
At a church.
but
That's funny.
to this day, I've never ridden in the fire truck. So and that's been what 21
But you've
years.
ridden in the
He
Porsche.
owes you.
I know.
That or he needs to refund the $500.
It was a loan, so she needs to pay it back. What's the interest on that one?
After 21 years, are really a lot.
We used to do that with student fundraisers, and I only did it once. And even sitting there, I was like, "This feels really weird."
Yeah.
Like there are adults buying our teenagers, and I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
We never did it again.
Be supremely awkward.
Yeah,
It's like a rodeo meets Christian fellowship.
yeah.
Yeah. So we met Chris. Y'all got married.
Yeah.
And
Been married how long now?
20 years, December 3rd this year.
20 years.
that's exciting.
Yep.
And 2 kids.
2 kids. Aiden is
Aiden,
15.
if you have not met Aiden, he is 15. He looks like he is
At least 21.
20 something. He's quite tall.
Very.
And then Addie, most people probably have figured out by now since she's been on stage several times, following in mom's footsteps with all the talent and all the stuff. Aiden is too, but he doesn't want to be in front of people.
No, they're both very talented.
Yes.
As we sat on the couch just a couple of nights ago, Chris and I, and they've both picked up guitar. Aiden's picked up acoustic guitar. Addie's picked up electric. And we were sitting there and he just turns over to me and he goes, man, that music gene is thick. So they both look like him though, so that's fair. But we have 2. I sat through my defiance to teach in school. I was working at Pier 1 Imports. That was my first big girl job, my first full-time job after college at Pier 1 Imports. I'm not the reason the business failed. But I got a phone call from West Valley Middle School. They needed a music teacher. I think of very similar to kind of now. They're like, anybody out there who can teach, we would love to have you. And I was getting ready to get married. So, I thought, oh my gosh, yeah, steady job. And that's a lot more money than I'm making here at Pier 1. So I went to work. And I still remember some really good memories, but overall that was a very difficult thing. I really believed that I was not cut out for education. So I walked away from it and I did exactly what I had wanted to do, which was to have a music studio where I taught private lessons. That's what I wanted to do. From many years, I was convinced that was the way. And so I started that and Chris was very supportive and I loved it. It was great. But I found my way back to church very quickly. We had Chris's cousin who said, hey, we would love to come fill in. That's how it starts, right? That's always how it starts. Yeah. It's like, hey, we need a pianist to fill in. So I started, yes. And then I started playing every Sunday. Then their worship leader left. And so they said, hey, would you just love to just step right into this role? I sat in a ministry meeting. I was very excited. It was a little bit more inner city. I was very excited. I mean, I'm young and I'm really excited to help bring all these new 4-chord songs to this very traditional, church. And so I decided to step on in that role. I think it was like a music director. I feel that was probably the title. And then 2 months later, the pastor left and everything changed. I'm really thankful for the wisdom now, but when you're walking through it in ministry at the time, it is just really, really difficult, especially newly married couple I'm trying to run a business on the side too at the same time. So I stayed, I feel, as long as I could. And I walked through a lot of things that I'm really thankful that I know now. And then walked into another worship leader position. I'm fairly certain that I played guitar on the first Sunday that I went there, which was a mistake. That was a mistake. but then I think I may have redeemed myself when I played piano. But I know a few chords on guitar. But if you've noticed, I've never played guitar here. So I did that. I was at the next church for 8 years. We walked through a building campaign. We walked through completely moving to an entirely new location. And all the wisdom that comes with that. That was hard. It was one of the things when I came here and you all were talking about, there may be some buildings and renovation. And I said, absolutely not. I don't want to be a part of that. I know how hard that is. Coming here comes after a very long season of me saying, I do not feel led to part of ministry in a staff position of any sort. I went back to education. Shocker. Went back to education. I spent 8 years at Berean Christian. And again, a lot of blessings and a lot of lessons. Addie, my daughter, says it's either a blessing or a lesson. So that's the theme. Did that for 8 years. And then I said, I just need to walk away. I'm going to try some stuff in the corporate world. I said this to a friend a couple days ago. I have never experienced such a long hallway of closed doors than I experienced in those 2 years. It was, I feel like I have some skills that I've acquired over time. I've learned some technical skills. I think, I talked to friends in the corporate world and said, hey, I can do stuff. It's not just church music. I can do more than that. For some reason, I think we equate like ministry is here. Like people just do it for fun, or they do it as a volunteer kind of thing. And I think I counted it was somewhere around 60 applications that I sent in during that time. This was right towards the end of my Berean tenure, and I had filled in here a little bit. And I think it was about 60 jobs. I've never interviewed for a job I didn't get. So I was so confident going into that. I'm sure I can get a job. Surely I can work and be, home with my kids, but at the same time, do some work. But I've never heard so many no's. I really believe that God was making it so obvious to me that, no, I really have something great for you here. I know that it's been hard. I know that it's been difficult for you. I know that you failed, and I know that you've learned, and I know that you've been hurt, but I really want you to get back here. So my mom, you called, left a message. My mom said, you need to go play. It's Paul Clark's son. That's what she told me, I think, because Paul Clark's son.
Nephew.
Have to get nephew.
Yeah.
I know that everybody says that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Ricky Clark's son.
There you go.
It was Ricky Clark's son. You've got to go play. I said, okay, fine. So I called and played here. I filled in, I think, sometime in September or October a couple times, and then played for Christmas, brought my family. And my husband, I'm fairly certain he had his arms crossed about like you do the entire time, which he was very protective of his wife, and he said, I'm going to come in here and make sure there's nothing bad going on in here. We have been looking for a church for years. We visited, I'm pretty sure, every church in the tri-state area just to try to find somewhere that would work for our family, where I wasn't on staff, which is very funny to sit here in this moment. And we loved it here. It was a refreshing, and it was also one of those moments where I said, I prayed for this, but it's been a really long time. I've been doing 2 different studies in Genesis right now, which I've never spent a lot of time in Genesis, but you talk about God making a promise, and then you think, okay, well, maybe in a couple of years, maybe, no, it was really hundreds of years at times before, but that doesn't make the promise any less true that he's going to fulfill that. But I think on our small timelines, we think, oh, surely he's going to answer this prayer, and I'm I'm going to be at that church when they have all the things and they have everybody all together, and it's the blended masterpiece or whatever. And I'll get to play piano. And I always was like, oh, I'm going to be in the middle so I can listen to the choir and all this stuff. And I was sitting in the congregation, actually. I think we came and I was sitting in the congregation. I looked up there and I went, this is what I prayed for.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it took a long time to get there. But then walking into, I said, okay, I'll play piano. That's it. I'll come play and that's it. And I'll just happily, I remember telling Chris, I'm just going to happily play piano. And it's just, that's all. And I don't have to do anything else. And then Austin goes, hey, we have a fine arts academy. And I thought, all right. I said, okay, I'll teach in it. I see those baby steps of somebody that is just really, really resistant. And I also think that God's timing in that was very wise, in that I wouldn't have been able to, and I probably would have just said, no, I don't want any part of it, and pulled back and continued to apply for jobs until a really long time. But we loved it here. It was hard because we live 45 minutes away. Mm-hmm. So when all the things came in, we said, we've got to live there. If you're going to work there, we got to live there. Chris works downtown, so it wasn't a super far change for him. So it came down to making a big decision. And we said, we looked for houses. There was no way we could afford to move out here. Until one of our friends called and said, hey, there's a house next door to us that's about to go up for sale on the market. And that doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. Those things don't happen. And so we got in to that house and headed into another season of learning and another season of growth, trying to remodel a house. My parents were so gracious to let us live with them for a few months as well while we did that process. But oh my gosh, now that we're here, I'm really, really thankful. Mm-hmm. I'm thankful that I learned one of the most difficult lessons, which was to take me out of the equation, to take my pride. As musicians, we want to be really good at what we do. And it's a performance aspect of that makes that hard, because we want to be really good, but we also want to worship, but we also want to, we don't want to be too flashy. We don't want to be too performative, but we want to play our best for him. And I want to be great. Now I wanted to play the right notes and not to make as many mistakes. But my pride was completely and totally broken in the time in coming here. God kind of took let me strip away all the stuff that Beth can do, that you think that I've taken. Beth has taken ownership of all I'm going to talk about myself in third person because that's not weird at all. But let me take all these things that I do really well and take them all away. Because God wanted me to say, look what God did, not look what Beth did. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm sitting now, is to be able to, not only just for myself, but for other people to look at what happens around me, or what happens with the Fine Arts Academy, or what happens with the worship ministry, and say, look what God did. Look what God did. And I think in my younger years, it was, look what I can do.
I'm a banana. Yeah. Well, that's really cool to see, on your side, how the Lord brought you to us. We're very grateful for that. On our side, as we just fill in some of those gaps, if you weren't a part of First Baptist in the last couple of years, as Beth kind of began to she filled in, like she said, a little over 2 years ago for us. And and then we went through a season of her just playing here, and we were trying to decide what we were doing as we marched forward with the job of accompanist. Obviously, if you've been in a worship service here, and hear that Beth is incredibly talented and skilled at the piano, but also very worshipful in her approach to how she leads from the piano. And that leaves a big mark. You'll hear me in rehearsals talk to our, especially folks on stage, that, like for instance, with the orchestra, let's say they don't have a song where they're playing. Well, that doesn't mean you're not worshiping in those moments. Just because your primary tool to worship is your instrument a lot of times. that in the moments when you're not using that tool, you're still called to worship. And so having worshipers on stage who lead, because if you're just playing to perform, you're kind of missing the mark when it comes to worship leadership. And so one of the things that's very evident, I think, to everybody is how you worship from your seat as you lead us each Sunday, whether you're playing or not, or how that works. And so it definitely has made a huge impact on, as we've progressed in worship ministry, having someone who does so skillfully, but also does it with the heart of a worshiper. And then as you've come on and we've added more to your plate and taken over Fine Arts Academy and now works in the worship ministry as an associate, just excited about what, as you say, you look back, and my testimony is very similar in coming here, that God has to empty you of yourself a lot of times so that you can only say it's only by God that X happened. And I think that's definitely my testimony over the last 4.5 years. It's yours that you just said, what does the next step hold? It's only by the grace of God. It's only by the providence of God that we're going to be able to say what comes next. And so that's always exciting to look at. Anyway, we appreciate you. We appreciate all that you bring to the table. You're also a fun person to hang out with. We have a good time in worship ministry staff and stuff between Beth and Hannah.
I feel that way. I feel like I definitely am worshiping in on Sunday mornings, but I also go and edit the live stream from time to time, and I see my face doesn't always say that. My face, so many times, my mom has even, sorry Mom if you're listening, she'll take a screenshot of my face.
What you doing here?
She'll be like, what was happening here, do you think? and so I feel like I've tried to work on my face, that my face looks like how I feel. I have not mastered it yet, but you say that all the time to the choir. You're like, hey, be aware of your face. And I'm sitting here looking at my face in the shiny music stand of the piano going, what do I look like? Do I look mad? I look mad. But I am worshiping the Lord, but I look so upset.
Angry.
I know.
It's also cool, like looking back, like Beth and I did not know each other at all. Evidently we met when we were like little kids, but I don't remember any of that.
I have a vague memory of sitting next to somebody who looked kind of like Everett and Eli at a conference or something, and our parents saying, you guys are about the same age. And I think we looked at each other and went,
yeah, right.
Thanks. That's the only thing, because we were in Panama City, so
that would be been you. That's where. So,
but I don't have any recall.
Yeah. So, but it's kind of cool how God works out those things. Of course, yes, I am from a ministry family. Beth is from a ministry family, and as we look back on it, Beth's mom and all of my dad's family knew each other and all that stuff. In fact. So my dad was a worship pastor. My uncle was a worship pastor and head of the worship department for the Tennessee Baptist Convention for a while. And then my grandfather was a pastor in Tennessee. And Beth's mom, Mary, has written anthems dedicated to all three of them. And we have copies of all those. And
you didn't get one.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yet.
So yet. You
have to be a lot older.
Yeah. Or a lot better.
Yes, both of those.
So, and even then now, like again, Eli and Addie are in the youth worship band together. So you're looking at 3/4 generations of Clark/McDonald doing music together. And it's just kind of cool how that's all come together and how the Lord has kind of orchestrated all that. And
we need to go sing all of those. We need to have Addie and Eli can play all those songs.
Play all the songs. Yes. It would be more than 4 chords.
Yes, it would.
So that's exciting. So as we kind of transition, yes, you are head of the Fine Arts Academy. We don't talk about that a lot on this, but our Fine Arts Academy, we offer instruction for musical instruments, voice, piano, all that kind of stuff. For people in private lessons. We've offered that for 3 years now. I believe we're on our 3rd year and have a healthy pool of students that we're teaching and several teachers. There's also a devotional aspect to that. And so we're trying to not only create musicians, but create disciples. But one of the one of the many things that I love that you bring to the table, Beth, is you are creative, and we've kind of begun trying to push the envelope with what all we're going to do here in Fine Arts Academy.
We're
And
just trying to test the waters.
Let's test the waters. It started, we've had a couple different things, but last year we did our full first musical. That was the Fine Arts Academy musical, and we did the music from the Lorax. And it was awesome and great response. Kids did awesome. We don't really have a space that's very friendly to musical performances, but you pulled it off. It was great. The kids did great. We're getting ready this summer to launch into Encanto, which is very exciting. If you have seen Encanto, or if not, you definitely should. But tell us a little bit about what we're doing this summer.
This summer, we're doing all the music of Encanto. I think some of the kids were like, we're doing all the whole movie. I said, no, that's called copyright infringement. But we're just doing it. We're just doing the music of Encanto. It swept the nation. I think everybody listened to the music at one point or another. And
we don't talk about Bruno. No.
That's exactly what happened when I went to the intermediate school yesterday.
Yes.
The kids really love it. One thing, I was very confused. I think I watched the movie a couple of times because I had trouble. It's very colorful and there's a lot going on. And my brain was like, well, I missed that. I don't understand what's happening. But it talks about your gifts. That hits, and it's because it's about music. And so it hit a core place in me. That they talk about the importance of their gift, almost as if that's who you are. And I can identify with that. Beth is a musician. That's who Beth is. That's not who Beth is. That's not who Beth is. That's what Beth does. That's one of the things. I don't like talking about myself in third person. This sounds very strange. I don't normally just speak this way. Something about this microphone is making me feel very uncomfortable.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
I don't. I've been doing this the entire time. But it talks about your gifts. Your gift opens doors, putting a big emphasis. Mirabelle, the main character, struggles because she doesn't have a quote unquote gift. I know what it feels like to be associated with your gift, thinking that is who you are. And I want these kids to know that who they are is not what they do.
Yeah.
There's a Pixar movie, Soul, that was about that as well. It was not about I was put on this earth to play piano. It's very, very easy to start to associate yourself with that. Like, I was put on this earth to be a North Carolina fan. Like, I think that's just what I'm meant to do. I'm supposed to.
And I think that just to interject, I think that comes maybe for a lot of people, but I think maybe you and I can speak to, as musicians or as artistic people, I think even more. You can feel as you grow in that art. I think it's really important, as you're saying, not to jump to the gun, but for kids to get that. But as you when you're a musician and you begin into college and grad school, and then if you go into performing, you do really begin, probably like an athlete, begins to tie their identity to their sport.
Yeah.
And I think when you are in the public eye, because people's perception of you, I think, case in point, part of why we bring you on the podcast here is because you are someone who people see week after week, and it can be easy for it to become what they see. They don't actually know you. It's kind of like, even now as a worship, I go to Kroger, and there are people who talk to me and I have no clue who they are. Because they see me, they think they know me. And so it becomes who you are. Does that make sense? Absolutely. So very real thing that we need to be teaching kids who may go into the artistic world.
It'll save them a lot of time.
Yeah.
Because you think, oh, that's so-and-so. They're the bass. Oh, you know him, the baseball player. Or you know them, the girl that sings really, really well.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to become identified with what our gifts are instead of who we are and who we are in Christ. And I hope to save young musicians some time and to figure that out, that's not who they are, but it is something that can open doors for you to however God wants to use you, or for other people to come to know Jesus in the same way, which has been my experience. I do this. Had kids ask me one time, did you ever want to be famous? I was like, of course I did. Les Mis came out when I was 12. Yes, absolutely. Yes. So I remember going to that and being like, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to stand on stage and I want to sing. I am not as strong of a singer as I am at piano. And so my daughter, I think, got more of that singing blessing than I did. But I think that I definitely wanted to do that. But I said, I have realized that my gift is to help you guys find the thing that you want to do with your music. Mm-hmm. And I find so much joy in that.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love being able to play. I love being able to look at a really hard song and to tackle it and to stretch my musicianship. I think we all want to do that. But that's not all of who I am. Mm-hmm. It's just the thing that God uses for me to maybe help reach somebody else and take some young child with starry eyes going, I want to do this. And I want to say, don't put your whole identity in that, because that's not all of who you are.
Yeah.
So shameless plug, come if your kids are interested. What are the age ranges?
8 to 18.
8 to 18 this summer can sign up. It's a 1 week. They'll practice every night during that week.
Every day. From 10 to 3 every day.
10 to 3 every day. Last week of July.
Yes.
And you can sign up on the SeymourFBC.org /FAA.
Yeah, that would have thrown everybody off.
Yeah, right. If you're like me, you just try both slashes. You don't really know which one's forward and back. I'm not really entirely sure. Anyway, you can sign up for that. But also, you can sign up for, like I say, instruction. We now offer a multitude
just about everything
of everything. Hopefully,
no accordion and no bagpipes.
No bagpipes.
Harmonica.
Sorry, I know you're probably
no harmonica.
Oh man,
you don't have a musical bone in your body anyway,
I don't.
Man.
But I blow on a harmonica. I don't care.
Yeah, it'll make noise.
Yeah,
not accurate noise, but it'll make noise.
That's right.
You can blow in and.
I did know that.
But we'd love to have again with the private instruction. You don't even have to be a kid. We take you at
we have
any
adults.
age. We have lots of adults who
have grown-ups.
Take instruction.
If I get a harmonica teacher, you'll be the first to know.
Okay.
All right.
And anyway, would love to have you do all that. But with that, Beth, we appreciate you. We appreciate the talent and creativity that you bring to your job. Love being able to work on staff with you, and love that your family's here. Glad that you're in Seymour now.
I know.
And fully bought into the ministry.
6 months
here.
in, and I walked in. Chris was ripping siding down yesterday. We're still in the remodel process, but we live here.
That's right. It's kind of like life.
We're here.
You know, you're always tearing something down in your life, and the Lord's always working on something.
Yes.
Yeah, but I hope you finish your house at some point.
I really would love. I'm not really helping as much as possible, but we're really happy to be here. I love this community.
Yeah.
I love this community. And that's part of Encanto being community outreach. We want to reach out to people, that may not have a church home, or that are looking for some place to use their gifts. So that's what it's all about for worship ministry anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that is Beth Smith, ladies and gentlemen. And she even talks in the third person. So,
Oh my gosh.
as always, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any thing you'd like to communicate with us, you can check out our info below in the podcast. But thanks for listening to this episode of Seymour from the Front Pew. And everybody say bye.
Goodbye.
Toodaloo.
Thank you for listening to Seymour from the Front Pew. Our sole desire for this podcast is to glorify God by educating and encouraging His body. If you would like to learn more about anything you've heard today, feel free to reach out by email at staff@seymourfbc.org or by visiting our website at seymourfbc.org. If you're located near our community and do not have a church home, come worship with us at 10:15 a.m. on Sunday morning. Until then, we pray God's richest blessings on you and yours as you love God, love others, make disciples, and live the life.